Hello, I'm Emily Rutherford-Liska, and welcome to the Jacksonville History Show. This is the show where we analyze and investigate the city's history. And I have a very special guest today, a man who knows so much about Jacksonville, Florida history, has a passion for Jacksonville, Florida history, and the people who've made Jacksonville what it is. And my guest is Doug Milne. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Emily.
Doug, you are almost within a hair of being a Jacksonville, Florida native. And what's so interesting about that really mimics the very person we're going to talk about today. Just was almost a Jacksonville native, and both of you, I will say, you could not find two finer people who are the adopted sons of Jacksonville, Florida. We call you our native sons.
Well, knowing in advance the other person you're talking about, I take that as a great compliment.
And that other person is none other than 44-year Congressman from the Jacksonville area, representing Jacksonville, Charles E. Bennett. And you're a longtime friend of, you were a longtime friend of Mr. Bennett's, and you're here to, we'll stroll down a little memory lane, just what Charlie Bennett did for Jacksonville, Florida, and the type of man Charlie Bennett was.
Wonderful.
Well, starting by, first of all, I kind of alluded to, you came to Jacksonville when you were, I think, 4 years old, correct? Three years old.
I don't remember not living in Jacksonville.
And went to elementary schools here. All your schooling was here.
Right.
And in fact, as time went on, you and Charlie Bennett became friends. At what point did you become friends with Mr. Bennett?
I first met Charlie at age 12, my age 12. He had been a congressman for 6 years. The year was 1955, and I was a patrol boy at West Riverside Elementary School, and took the annual patrol boy trip to Washington and had the customary photograph. And
we're going to get that photograph now. Right. As you tell us about it, I think, I'm the one who has. I apologize. Okay. And I'm going to hold it up and make sure the camera's getting it so there's not a glare. Go ahead and keep talking about
this. I first met Charlie that day as a patrol boy from West Riverside, and over the next 55 plus years, or 45 plus years, our friendship would grow ever stronger. And as time went by, I recognized, which took no time to do, what a wonderful, unique, sort of once-in-a-lifetime man this was I had encountered at age 12.
And this photograph is indicative of what Charlie Bennett did every spring when the patrol boys would come up for their annual visit. And these are just the Jacksonville area patrol boys of 1955.
Correct.
And he would, and girls, there are some young women in this group, which I was pleased to see. Mm-hmm. And this was sort of a surprise for you, because you did not have the photo for many years, and your brother Jack found this in an antique shop in Jacksonville.
That's right. My brother Jack, who is one of the most thoughtful persons I know and around. And
a great historian in his own right, like you and like Charlie. Mm-hmm. And so you became friends with Charlie, and through the years the friendship developed, and you really watched him up close. And I'd like you to talk about some of Charlie's accomplishments that mean so much, particularly to the Jacksonville community at large, and if you want to talk about the history community in particular, that's great.
Well, if we could be here for about 5 straight days, we might be able to scratch the surface of all that Charlie did for Jacksonville, legislatively and otherwise. But in my opinion, the greatest thing Charlie did for the people in Jacksonville, which is our most important resource, is set the pace, set the standard for how a person should conduct himself or herself in public life, in private life, and life in general. And he had the unique advantage of being able to carry that out because of his legislative position. And the kind of activities he maintained as a congressman went well beyond the lawmaking role.
Give some examples of that. There's so many. I mean, he turned down all of his raises, I know that.
He always maintained that he was elected a U.S. representative at a certain pay. And until such time as he was reelected, he would not take any pay raise that Congress people got during election times. If he were reelected, which he typically and always was, he never was not reelected, and the pay had been raised in between times, then that was okay. But if he was elected in year 1 and was up for reelection in year 3 and the pay was raised in year 2, he would not take it. And never did. And quite often in later years, even pay raises that were granted under that self-imposed no acceptance, he turned over to such causes as the National Park Service. The great love, among the great loves of his life, being so proud and so fascinated with every aspect of Northeast Florida, was its environment. And he saw as a young man early on just how uniquely blessed we are in Northeast Florida because of the God-given natural attributes that are so prevalent here.
And to that end, as I recall, the first piece of legislation he authored when he got to the U.S. Congress, and I think I'm correct, the first, was to set aside the Fort Caroline National Memorial. You want to talk a little bit about that and what that has meant to Jacksonville? That's
correct. In fact, he even tried to do it when he was in the state legislature before World War II. But you're absolutely right, Emily, and as always. When he was first elected to Congress, the first action he forwarded was to establish the Fort Caroline National Monument. And this picture I took a couple years ago for my family to use as a postcard is now an important part. It's in the middle of an important part of what grew from less than a couple hundred acres in that early Fort Caroline area to now over 40,000 acres in the worldwide known Temuquin Ecological Preserve.
Which is such a treasure for Jacksonville, Florida, that we have that wonderful preserve. And of course, Charlie had been a great historian of just what that land meant to North Florida. And that was the land through at least 2 textbooks, or not even textbooks, books for the general population that were actually used as textbooks as well. And wrote 3 voyages, wrote Laudonniere,
Gregor McGregor.
Gregor McGregor. Yeah. So many books on that topic. And again, all the proceeds were turned over to the National Park Service or to other charitable organizations. But he captured for us, and all that original research on our early French heritage here in this place now that is Jacksonville, Florida, and save that for us. Well, you have some wonderful personal mementos from Mr. Bennett, in addition to the patrol boy photo, which I love. And if you would show some of them, or at least I'll hold them up for the camera and you tell about them.
Probably in the early 80s, I opened the mail one day and there was a manila envelope from Washington, D.C. I opened it up, and inside it was this fairly nondescript piece of wood.
Show this on the air if I can. Okay. Oh, you were getting it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And on the face of it, as you can see, is embedded a JFK Kennedy $50. And if you will reverse it, you will see, if the camera can pick it up,
sure,
that it is a section of the inaugural platform of President Kennedy when he was inaugurated president. Charlie served under numbers of presidents, and he had a habit. He was a fine wood craftsman, and he would go down after the president was inaugurated and the ceremony was over, when the platform was to be disassembled and the wood disposed of, and he would collect pieces of wood from the presidential inaugural platform and take them home. And he built pieces of furniture and tables and all kinds of things from those unique pieces of otherwise fairly nondescript pieces of wood. Made that for me. And an interesting anecdote about that, Emily, is one day I had it in a glass, you know, like a gold watch would go in, had it hanging from that. And one night, our office building was broken into when we were at 100 Riverside with my dad and Ted Pappas and others. Building was broken into and ransacked, and that was stolen. And it broke my heart. And I casually mentioned it to Charlie, and as you can imagine, it was not a week before a replacement, which is this one.
Oh my goodness.
He went back, found another piece of the Kennedy platform, and gave me another one.
And I think it's a very fair guess that hundreds of people, if not thousands, in the Jacksonville community received personal letters from Charlie Bennett. Thousands, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Handwritten or hand-typed, and then with handwritten notes. And he would have actually typed the letters as well.
You get a typed letter from him that may have been 20 lines long, and interlineated throughout all the typing would be handwritten postscripts.
And I was lucky enough to get one of those.
Yeah. They're treasures.
Thrilled. I'd like you to show, do you have one quick story? We're almost out of time. We have 1 minute. And so if there's anything you'd like to mention about Mr. Bennett.
I would, Emily. Recently, I was honored to be invited by the Public Trust, or the North Florida Land Trust, and the Nature Conservancy and others in a consortium to speak about Charlie and his vision resulting in the Timucuan Preserve. And I can encapsulate it very, very briefly by saying, A, it was a wonderful experience for me to be able to in effect represent him before that wonderful group of conservation-minded folk, but to demonstrate how he loved everything about Northeast Florida and the God-given resources which we have here, and he recognized there really were but two in the final analysis: the human ones, the people, and the non-human ones, the environment. And he very, very carefully moved us forward and provided the leadership for others behind him, like John Delaney and so many more, to preserve that history and that wonderful ecosystem to what we have today.
Doug, thank you so much. And we didn't even get to the many, many buildings and structures and the wonderful Andrew Jackson horse, Andrew Jackson on horse that he got for this area.
Old
the
St.
buildings
Luke's
he
Hospital.
saved. It's on and on and on. But we will have you back so we can talk about the many contributions of Charlie Bennett to Jacksonville, Florida. And thank you for bringing us a piece of that story today.
It's been an honor.
Thank you. If you'll stay with us, we'll be back, and Jerry Spinks will have an interview and tell you how you might be able to save your family's history.